Digital Media presents Part 4 of The Butterfly Dragon, What Different Eyes See, Vietnam Special Edition by Brian Joseph Johns. Bed and breakfast. Alicia stepped out of the vehicle, followed by Monique, Halen, and Valerie. They thanked the driver, paying him for the short trip, then looked for their destination address, which they quickly found. A large sign written in regional languages and several Western languages. "Here it is, the first address," Halen said, still reading the address from her notes. "This is the one," Alicia agreed, approaching the door and knocking, then quickly pushing Halen in front. They waited a long while before they heard the click of a lock and a latch. The door slowly opened, and an elderly man looked at them carefully, squinting in the absence of light. "Hi, I am so sorry to disturb you, but we are friends of the family of a man that was last seen at the quaint Palace Hotel many years ago, which I understand is now a bed and breakfast. Do you mind if we ask you some questions?" Halen asked the man in Vietnamese, careful of her pronunciation. He paused and thought about what Halen had asked, and then his face lit up as if she'd struck a happy thought within the aging man. A moment later, an aging lady approached the man from behind. "What is this? Who are these people?" she asked impatiently, also in Vietnamese. The aging man slowly turned around to face the lady. "They are here to ask us some questions. They remember the quaint palace when it was still a palace. They have an old friend from the hotel for whom they are looking," the aging man said to her. "Do you speak English?" asked the elderly lady. "Yes, we do," answered Halen. "Come in for tea. I translate for you to my husband. I used to be a school teacher. I teach English," the aging Vietnamese woman explained. "Thank you. That would be very nice of you," Halen replied, beckoning Alicia, Monique, and Valerie to follow. The lady reached into a cubby-hold shelf space and produced 4 pairs of slippers, which she placed on the floor. "Thank you again," Alicia thanked the lady this time. They took off their footwear and stepped into the slippers. They then followed the aging couple into their home, taking a seat at a large table. "Do you have family?" asked Halen politely. "Yes, we have 2 sons. Both are married and have children of their own. When they come visit, they use the very table at which you're seated," the aging lady answered as she prepared the tea. The aging man took a seat at the table and smiled at Halen. "He says you're Chinese," the aging lady told Halen. "From Canada, Chinese," Halen replied. "Oh, you're from Canada. Oh, I see. Do you have names there?" the aging lady asked somewhat sarcastically. "I'm so sorry, how rude of me. These are my friends and peers, Alicia, Valadia, and Monique. My name is Halen, or you can call me I," Halen answered the lady. "That is quite all right. We've never had company from Canada, so make a good first impression," the lady advised them. "Good diplomacy would require that we at least know the names of those with whom we're dealing," Alicia responded pleasantly and with a smile. "Alicia, you're a diplomat, are you? Well, this is my husband Quan, and I am Thi," the aging lady answered, her name now known. "We're pleased to meet you, Thi and Quan. We've got a long night ahead of us. Could we please ask you the questions?" Valerie took the bold step, knowing full well that it might get her branded. "You're Valerie. Very brash. Impatient. Ask your questions," Thi encouraged them. Halen retrieved her tablet from her handbag. She then quickly brought up the drawing she'd etched earlier and placed it before Quan. "Do you recall ever seeing a man that looks like this drawing?" she asked. Quan leaned in close to the tablet, squinting until both his eyes were merely a thin sliver. His face lit up in recognition. Quan quickly said something to Thi in Vietnamese after spending a moment contemplating Halen's sketch. "He says that he saw this man several times during the war. He worked for the market, running deliveries. He was also a policeman and even worked as a regular in the North Vietnamese army. He says that man was many things and always very busy," Thi told the ladies, Halen already understanding most of what the man had stated. Did you ever see him go to the Quiet Palace with a lady? Asked Monique, wanting to get in on the action. Quaint Palace, Valerie corrected her. Don't quaint and quiet mean the same thing? Monique said in her own defense. A quiet man might be quaint, but a quaint man might not be quiet, Thea explained before turning to Quan to ask Monique's question.
Thea asked their question of her husband Quan in Vietnamese. Quan responded in Vietnamese to his wife. He says that man came to the quaint palace with a woman only once. They were in a hurry to get a room, but that she was not a sex worker. He says they were in love. Thea came to the table, placing a tiny teacup at each of their seats and pouring them a cup of tea. Thank you. Does Quan remember the names with which they checked into the quaint palace? Asked Halen. Thea turned back to Quan and asked their question. The man's face became compressed as he concentrated, peering back into the reaches of his memory. After a few moments of intense thought, the man spoke. Quan's response was accompanied by an expression of disappointment. He says he can't remember, but you might be able to find the name by going through Ving's old records. Ving is the old owner of the quaint palace and a friend of Quan. He has a storage unit nearby. You'd need Ving's help in finding the records. The most we could do is call him for you and arrange for him to give you access, Thea told them in a compassionate voice. Thank you, but I think we've hit a dead end. We'll take Ving's name and number if you could share it, Halen asked Thea. Thea asked Quan for permission. Quan responded, handing his phone to Thea as he did. All right, I'll send you the number from Quan's phone, but to do that, I'll need your number, Thea requested. Halen gave the lady her number, and a few moments later, Thea sent Halen Ving's phone number. Thank you so much for your hospitality and for answering our questions. You're good hosts, Halen thanked Thea and Quan. Thank you. You're good diplomats. You seem to work well as a team, Thea told them as they got it from the table, having consumed their tea. That we do, Alicia agreed as they made their way to the front door. They removed their slippers and stepped back into their regular footwear out of doors. Goodbye, nice to meet you, Thea bid them farewell. Quan bid them farewell as they left, closing the door behind them. As they approached the street, a man from across the street walked quickly towards them. He had a thin mustache and beard and wore a sun hat common to the region. He was clearly North American. Nice night, ladies, the man approached them. We're tourists too, Valerie replied. That obvious, am I? Good thing, the man responded to them.
How can we help you? Halen asked the man. It's dangerous to be out alone at night, don't you think? Asked the man. It's still early. Close to 9 last I checked. Hanoi is a safe place for tourists. Besides, you'll find that we're not so helpless as we might appear. Valerie stepped between the man and her friends. So I've heard. Look, I'm not the enemy. I'm here to help you, in a few ways. First, I'm going to give you something. Something you've been looking for. The man handed Valerie an envelope. No, don't think me. It was nothing, really. The man responded long before she'd even attempted to open the envelope. Valerie turned to Alicia and Halen, who looked at each other and shrugged. Might be a voucher for 50% off one of the local spas, Halen joked. They both turned back to Valerie and nodded. Valerie opened the envelope carefully, removing a solitary piece of paper from it. The paper had 2 names digitally printed on it. They were both Vietnamese names. Valerie handed the paper to Halen. Halen read the names aloud quietly for her friends. Ying Tien, Du Duong. You're welcome. No need to thank me. But I have to ask you something in return. You see, in my business, we need to keep certain industry secrets from getting into the wrong hands. You know? The man looked up and smiled charmingly at the women. I take it that you're with the company? And that you're here on official company business? Halen asked the man. Precisely. Guilty as charged. Now, you're working on something for an old lady. A lady who is knocking on death's door. A lady who is experiencing the anguish of guilt having betrayed the man she loved for her country and having lost her child as a result. She's experiencing the limits of her own mortality and having to come to terms with that. She's reacted by investing quite a bit of money digging into things that are stirring up problems for some of us in the company. So here's the deal. We already know that the lady from the story, the baby girl she had, well, how else can I put it? She's dead. As a doornail. Gone. End of story. End of investigation. The problem is that someone that desperate rarely gives up. So here we have a certain old lady with numerous resources and powerful contacts in the region at her disposal. A very powerful woman and one that has been on our radar for some time. She's a big deal here. She's more obsessed as she gets closer to death's door. She's looking for someone to carry on her legacy and putting her faith in a fairy tale. The problem is that we can't convince her of this. Her own government couldn't convince her of this. So we need you to convince her of this. In the long run, it will save us a lot of trouble and ensure that certain company secrets remain as much. How about it? Are you game for that? The man asked Valerie, occasionally looking past her directly at Halen. You bastard! How dare you say that about her? You obviously want to be the first American in space without a spacesuit because I'm tempted to put you into orbit right now, Valerie responded. Whoa, hold on a second. I come with burnt offerings and you're threatening to put me into orbit? Hey, if this was the 1960s, I might take you up on that. Become the first man on the moon, unwillingly. But it isn't, and these are very strange times. The world is changing in ways that make global stability vulnerable and fragile. Your mommies and daddies were part of something that kept that stability, and miraculously as a result, we've never seen a nuclear conflict in our lives. Consider that some of us want a safety net in place, in case diplomatic channels fail and the command structure moves towards conflict, leading us down the road to destruction. We are a part of that safety net, and one little old lady is wreaking havoc upon it by searching for a little girl from a fairy tale. All I'm asking you is to give her closure, rather than to let others, including yourselves, wring her fortune out of her on flights of fantasy like this one, taking advantage of a dying lady, where you might also undermine the fabric of things that keep us all safe. The man's argument suddenly became more important and credible to them. We'll take your advice under advisement and consider it in all of our future actions. As far as going along with what you request, I don't think that we can make any guarantees either way. Alicia spoke like a true diplomat. Not to mention, you should have a bit more respect for the elderly, and at the very least, a bit more tact, Monique addressed the man. Fine, I'll work on that. Please consider what I said, lest this get ugly, and it could get, oh, so ugly. Good night, ladies. The man turned and walked, disappearing into the night. He does have a point. We might be delving into matters that we don't quite understand. There are obviously some very risky elements related to our digging up the ghosts of the past here, Alicia pointed out. He was a professional, and that wasn't his own personality. It was an act. He was just doing his job and doing it well, Halen observed. He just insulted that lady and you're kissing his ass? Valerie turned to confront them in shock. Halen considered Valerie's point and then responded, No, just observing that he tried to play us. Manipulate the casus belli in his favor, and Valerie fell for it. The casus what? He just stated that an elderly woman trying to reunite with her little girl was a fairy tale, a flight of fantasy, Valerie defended her response.
And your reaction would have made you the monster more so than he, Alicia agreed with Halen. It's not her fault, though. In my time with Kyoshi Morgan Hind, Tiger Hun Kwang, and Jin Hua, they taught me the concept of what many call the casus belli, the justification to use extreme actions as attack for one's own defense. To attack without justification is to bring about a severe penalty, especially in warfare and public opinion, as the defender always has the advantage, and even more so when the attack has no reasonable justification. He only verbally indicated his side of the situation, using words he hoped would provoke a brash and unreasonable response from one of us. And that response came in the form of a violent threat from Valerie, hence giving him the casus belli for that moment, had Valerie responded with violence, Halen explained. Like bull baiting, Monique added. Bull baiting? What's that? Asked Valerie. The same thing. My mother used to tell me the tale of a bull who was tormented by a matador. The matador would only use his cape, taunting the bull and teasing it, all while the crowd watched and cheered him. Then, the bull got so angry that it charged at the matador, missing him as the matador evaded. The crowd cheered even louder for the matador, but nobody could see that the matador had intimidated the bull into attacking, making the bull all the more upset. Eventually, the bull hit the matador, injuring him, and the handlers had to kill the bull, even though the bull was completely innocent. Monique explained her mother's story. The underlying truth that leads to conflict is often very different from what the audience perceives. Part of the training I had is the training to be in control of one's own emotions and reactions. Because if someone can intimidate you into reaction, then you stand the risk of losing the benefit of righteousness and truth, especially if you use physical attack or defense. Believe me, there are many people at every level who play the game of life that way, the dirty tricks way, attempting to provoke others into reaction or to make the reality of the instigator of a conflict appear much different than truth, especially in ways that others simply can't detect. He was a professional, and he was playing us all using highly emotional words and circumstances. Thankfully, Valerie only responded with words in like, not actions, so we didn't lose anything, and in fact, we gained something. Helen continued her explanation. How do we even know those are their real names? Valerie asked, still upset. We don't, but we do have something more to go on, not to mention we gained a very important piece of information, Helen stated. What? Valerie asked. The fact that we're being watched by some big players in this game, Alicia observed. Not to mention the man whose past we're trying to uncover was an American agent that helped the South Vietnamese during the war. We're doing that on behalf of a woman who worked directly for the North. We're right in the middle of this, Helen added. Right in the dead center, I'd say, Alicia agreed. So let's touch bases with the delegation and see what they've got, Helen suggested. Valerie, can you call Zhang and bring her up to date? Find out what they know too, Alicia asked Valerie as she retrieved her own phone from her purse. Trail of paint. The van drove along a busy street, turning onto a quiet community road. Within, Zhang hung up her phone and shared Valerie's updates with the rest of the delegation. She also mentioned that Valerie had indicated for everyone to be careful and stay attentive to their surroundings. She then went on to advise that Zhang keep Monique on speed dial, and in the event there was a crisis, Monique could respond faster than anyone else could. The plot thickens, does it? Victor asked rhetorically. There's nothing to worry about. We just have to stay on our toes, Dr. Briggs assured everyone in the van.
We're already on our toes, more so than Rudolf Nureyev ever was, Katya added. Who's Rudolf Nureyev? Linda asked. He's a bit before your time. You were probably a young child when he was in the news, or maybe not even born yet. He's a Russian ballet dancer of some note, Bryce told them. Very good, Professor Maxwell. You know your ballet, Katya complimented him. Well, I certainly know my news, so what are these names we're to keep an eye out for? Bryce replied. The first one is Yen Tian, presumably a woman's name, and the second is Du Duong, which is a men's name. Zhang answered Bryce's question. Tian? That's a girl's name, most commonly. It has a history in Southeast Asia and is recognized in many countries there within. Du, I'm not so sure about. It's a common name in Vietnam, but not so much in China, Korea, or Japan. Dr. Briggs added his knowledge. The van pulled up at the closest of the two addresses, which was actually the second one on the list. The house itself appeared to be dormant, as were all of the other houses on this seemingly rural side street. They paid the driver for the first trip, asking the driver to wait for them until they were done. The driver agreed, parking his car on the street outside of the dilapidated wartime house. The six of them proceeded up the driveway, which very quickly darkened the closer they came to the house. Dr. Briggs reached into his pockets and pulled several tiny pocket LED flashlights from within, handing one to each of his fellow delegates. Looks like some of us are more on their toes than the rest. I like an attentive man, Linda smiled, shining her flashlight at Briggs. I picked them up at the gift shop at the hotel when we got there. They were way overpriced, but they certainly come in handy, Dr. Briggs agreed. As long as you keep your light on the right path. Zhang tugged his shirt, pulling him closer. As they approached the house, Victor spoke. There's no front door on this one. These are derelict homes, probably from the war era, Victor pointed out. We should keep an eye out for squatters, Katya warned. Very unlikely here, with the economic growth very strong, Dr. Briggs remarked. Still, Valerie told us we should be careful, Bryce reminded them. Zhang went ahead, fully prepared to step through the front door. Victor gently grabbed her arm and pulled her behind him. I'll go first, Dr. Briggs offered.
We'll go together. Zhang tucked in close to him so the two of them could fit through the door together. Dr. Briggs made no effort to resist, instead pushing closer to her himself. As they walked into the home, the floorboards creaked, possibly not having supported the weight of adults for decades. The houses themselves were small, with a tiny sitting room up front, a kitchen and dining area farther back, followed by a wash area and latrine at the rear. They proceeded into the sitting room, searching carefully as they went. As Briggs stepped through the doorway, he was greeted by the sound of scurrying as something reasonably large tried to slip out of the room through the opposite doorway and out the back door. His flashlight caught the tail end of a mammal as it ran quickly out the door, then proceeded out of the house, still running. Smells like feces in here. I guess something furry has made this their home, Dr. Briggs noted. It's an herbivore, not a carnivore or omnivore. We have nothing to fear. It's likely more scared of us than we are of it, Victor assured them. How do you know? Asked Linda. My husband and I work with phages, microorganisms that are natural predators of bacteria. We do research mostly, but we do collaborate with genetic engineers as well in order to develop specific applications of their use in the medical community, Katya explained to Linda. What does that have to do with you knowing that thing was an herbivore? Linda continued, pressing Katya and Victor. Phages can most commonly be found in feces and sewage. Specific diet produces specific phages, because diet also affects the kind of bacteria that live in or afflict a host organism. Different diet, different bacteria, different predatory phages. Working with them, you become familiar with the difference in smell between carnivore feces and herbivore feces. Victor explained the rest to Linda. How lovely that you two have found a common bond between you, Linda remarked sarcastically. Their work might save your life one day, Zhang responded, defending Katya and Victor. Phages are mutually complementary to antibiotics in the sense that if a strain of bacteria is antibiotic resistant, then it is very susceptible to phages, whereas if a strain of bacteria is resistant to phages, it is very susceptible to antibiotics. It seems that their work in phages already did save a life. I don't know about you, but that scared the feces out of me, and I'm not an herbivore, Bryce joked. Is someone checking our GPS location? You remember that we're supposed to be searching at a specific latitude and longitude, Dr. Briggs reminded them. Oops, sorry, I forgot. Let me check them with my phone. The GPS on mine is pretty accurate, down to a half a meter. Zhang pulled her phone from her purse and opened her GPS application. Dr. Briggs peered over her shoulder. Probably outside the back door, Dr. Briggs observed. You mean we have to go the same way that herbivore went? Linda asked. Looks like it, Zhang said adventurously, already walking in the direction of the door. The rest followed her, Dr. Briggs sticking nearly to her side as they exited through the back door. Zhang checked her GPS location on the phone, seeing that they were about 6 meters from the exact coordinates indicated on the clue they'd uncovered on the painting. Zhang and Briggs stepped forward, making their way to the location as the others followed. When they arrived, they found an old storm door leading into an underground bunker. Probably a bomb shelter, Dr. Briggs noted. It's still got a padlock on it, Zhang observed, checking the lock. As she twisted the lock in her hand, the lock crumbled to rust, leaving only the rusted latch in place. Looks like we found a way in. Who's game for going in there? Asked Dr. Briggs. I am. Where are you all scared or something? Zhang asked them. No, not at all. I was just thinking that it might be a good idea to have someone out here keeping watch in case anything happens, Bryce remarked.
Then why don't you keep watch with Katya and Victor? Asked Zheng. And me? Linda added. And Linda, Zheng said happily. Sounds like a deal. If we don't hear anything from you within 5 minutes, I'm calling Halen. Bryce assured Zheng and Dr. Briggs. Here, take my phone. It's set to speed dial Monique, and when she sees my number, she'll know right away to come to this address. She'll let Halen, Alicia, and Valerie know. She'll get here quick, real quick. Zheng recalled from her experiences at the Forbidden City. Good plan. We'll keep communicating as you go. Dr. Briggs opened the storm door, lifting it as it creaked on its hinges. He went slowly, worried he might break the hinges. As he suspected, the frail hinges broke and the storm door fell aside with a thud. Okay, let's hope we don't get arrested for vandalism and property damage, Dr. Briggs said as he stepped down into the bunker. The ladder held his weight and was remarkably intact, having been sheltered from the Vietnamese weather. He looked around when he found the dirt floor with his feet, making sure it was safe for both him and Zheng. He noted a large tunnel that led downwards at a slight decline in towards the earth in a northeastern direction. It's safe, Zheng. He turned back to the ladder, seeing that Zheng hadn't waited for him as she was nearly at the bottom of the ladder. He lifted her down from the last few rungs, and she didn't resist. Thank you. Shall we proceed? She asked him. Let me go first, Dr. Briggs insisted. Why? Whatever happens, we can handle it together. Zheng pushed him. If there's a trap and I spring it, you can get help. If we both go simultaneously, then we'll both be stuck, leaving them in a precarious situation. Dr. Briggs tried to convince her. Zheng thought about it for a moment. Makes sense, Zheng agreed. Dr. Briggs proceeded first, stepping down the descending passage, walking for several meters before coming to a large room. The room was furnished with several crates, all with military markings written in Vietnamese and Russian. As none of the crates were sealed, Dr. Briggs opened one, peering inside. The first one he checked was empty. This one, too. There's nothing inside. Zheng closed the crate she'd just peered into. Dr. Briggs opened another and found a curved metal box with several ridges running along each of its sides. He reached in and picked it up. It had a fair bit of weight in his hands as he retrieved it from the crate. A magazine for a Russian weapon, for the Kalashnikov AK-47. It's still full. This must have been an arms cache, Dr. Briggs noted. I don't think so. I think they just stored the crates here, Zheng suggested. They couldn't have. These crates wouldn't fit down through the opening we came in, Dr. Briggs replied. Then they got them in here another way, through another passage, Zheng suggested, pushing some of the stacked crates apart, revealing a hidden passage. I'll be. That passage is wide enough to do the trick. Let's see where it goes, Dr. Briggs urged her. Hello? Is everything all right? Bryce's voice could be heard echoing through the bunker. We're fine. Just investigating another passage in here. Won't be long, Zheng responded. All right, scream if you need help, Bryce's voice yelled back. Okay, let's go. Zheng grabbed Dr. Briggs's hand, tugging him forward into the passage. They walked for 4 minutes, following the passage, which emerged into another large room. This one was filled with crates, much like the other room. All of them were unlocked and easy to open. Zheng immediately opened the first one, finding several paintings within. She pulled one of them out of the crate, laying it flat across the opening. It depicted 2 angry mobs, illustrated in a shadowy black silhouette, obviously ready to engage one another. They were surrounded by a brown aura that slowly graduated into a red tone in the center of the painting where a single 5-point star sat, much like in the painting they'd seen at the Vietnamese University of Fine Art. Zheng's eye immediately jumped to the lower right corner where she found a familiar signature, V. Canara. Briggs, look at this! Zheng called him over. Found one here too! Briggs held up another painting. His painting depicted a sky full of blackened clouds hovering over a darkened landscape. In the top middle of the painting, a burst of white clouds illuminated the sky, and an opening in their bottom lit the way a single 5-point star in the center of the painting. This one, too, was signed with the same mysterious signature, V. Canara. I think we've hit the jackpot. Briggs put his painting down and rushed over to Zhang, who met him halfway. They embraced, their lips inches from their first kiss. "Are you all right?" A familiar voice yelling down from the other end of the tunnel echoed through the passage. "We're all right, we're safe," Zhang yelled. Zhang looked into Dr. Briggs's eyes, and for a moment, they spoke without words. "Not now, but soon," they said to each other. They stood for a moment in each other's arms, holding on to the moment as long as they could. They then broke their embrace, heading in the direction of the unexplored exit passage from this room. As Zhang suspected, it ended at a large pair of steel doors, both the passage and the door wide enough to allow movement of the crates.
"Allow me." Dr. Briggs pushed at the doors several times, breaking the hinges. He pushed the doors aside and stepped out onto the ground. He then turned and waited for Zhang, keeping her way lit with his flashlight. "Can I borrow your phone?" asked Zhang. "Sure." Dr. Briggs handed her his phone. She called Bryce his number, letting it ring twice before he answered. "Where are you?" he asked. "We're at the other address on that list of 2 addresses, directly at the second set of coordinates," Zhang assured him. "Find anything?" he asked. "We didn't find anything. We found everything," Zhang smiled. 2 lives. Sang Hien had already arrived on the site, followed by a team from the Vietnamese University of Fine Arts. Miss Huy Van had sent a security detachment from a local private security firm to secure the site while the experts from the university did their work. "This is an astounding find," Sang stated as he walked out of the bunker for a breath of fresh air. "It certainly helps to put into context the importance of the first V. Canara painting," Zhang agreed with Sang as another van pulled up out front of the property. Alicia, Halen, Monique, and Valerie stepped out of the van and paid the driver, then quickly proceeded to the backyard area where the experts were already setting up a perimeter. "Good job. Looks like we've got somebody's attention," Alicia noted to Zhang and Briggs as Linda, Bryce, Katya, Victor stepped out of the bunker. "Thank you. We'll be sure to stay out of your way," Bryce commented as he emerged from within the bunker. "At least they were polite about it," Victor observed. "Speak for yourself. You should have seen the smirk I got on my way out," Linda protested. "Really? I thought he was smiling," Katya responded. "Thanks for nothing," Linda responded callously to Katya. "Are you Zhang? I'm Professor Ngoc Feng with the University of Fine Arts. I understand that you and Dr. Briggs are credited with the find," asked Professor Ngoc Feng in a late 30s Vietnamese lady. "That's correct, but more of us were involved in the whole effort," Zhang answered Professor Feng. "They'll be recorded in the overall report, but in general publications, it's the first 2 names that are reported," Professor Feng told them. "Then let the find be credited to Miss Huy Van first. None of us would have been here if not for her," Zhang answered modestly. "That's a kind gesture, and one that is duly noted. I'll report this find in Miss Huy Van's name. She's a donor to the scholarship fund at the university," Professor Fuang assured Zhang. "You did a good thing," Dr. Briggs smiled at Zhang. "That we did," Zhang hugged Dr. Briggs. As they were in mid-embrace, a trio of military trucks pulled up in front of the property. From the back of the trucks poured a platoon's worth of Vietnamese troops. They quickly rushed into the backyard and surrounded the bunker. 6 of them surrounded the delegation, with one of them shouting questions. "Who here has been in the bunker?" The sergeant's voice silenced everyone. "I have," Zhang put up her hand courageously. "So have I," Dr. Briggs added, not wanting to leave Zhang isolated. "What is going on?" Halen stepped forward, close to Zhang. "Were you in the bunker or not?" the sergeant repeated. "No," Halen responded defensively. "Then step off of this property or you'll be arrested and detained indefinitely." The sergeant made their intent very clear. Valerie moved forward as if ready to use force. Alicia grabbed her arm and coaxed her to follow. "Not now, Valerie. This isn't the time." Alicia pulled against Valerie's immense strength. "I need 10 men over here now." The sergeant ordered his troops, and 12 came and encircled the delegation. Another man in a military uniform approached the sergeant and whispered something in his ear.
We need all of your phones, now. They will be returned to you in 48 hours after they've been cleared by our technology unit. If you fail to comply, you will be arrested and detained indefinitely," the sergeant shouted. "All right, no need to tell us twice," Bryce responded. "I'm the one calling the shots here," the sergeant reminded him. The members of the delegation handed over their phones, one by one. 5 phones? 6 people? The sergeant looked at them suspiciously. "I don't have a phone," Linda responded, as Zhang was visibly relieved. "Are you hiding something?" the sergeant asked Zhang aggressively. "No, I was just grateful that it wasn't one of us holding our phone back," Zhang responded. The sergeant looked them each in the eye. "Now go," he pointed to the front of the property. "How do we call for a taxi?" asked Dr. Briggs.
"Go to the front. We'll take care of that," the sergeant responded to Dr. Briggs, then ordering a portion of his men into the bunker. As they stepped off of the property and onto the street, Monique cursed. "Damn. Now they have all of the photos of the paintings, not to mention whatever else was on Zhang's and Dr. Briggs' phones." Monique sounded more frustrated than angry. "I didn't keep anything of this on my phone," Dr. Briggs assured them. "I've still got mine and most of the information we've collected. We just don't have the photos of all the paintings from the university and the bunker on Zhang's phone," Alicia told them. "Yes, we do," Halen smiled, holding up Zhang's phone. "I passed it to her when she got close to me. That's what I was worried about when the sergeant pointed out that there were 5 phones," Zhang smiled. "Thankfully, Linda proved her loyalty to us by lying about not having a phone," Zhang noted. "What can I say? I'm a quick improviser," Linda smiled. "I'm very impressed. All that without a plan?" Dr. Briggs agreed. "So we have everything we need to continue this investigation. Not to mention, look who just pulled up." Bryce pointed to a familiar D car. "Going somewhere?" Thuk Bin stepped out of the van and addressed the delegation. "Looks like we are now," Alicia responded. "Miss Hui Van suggested I come to this location and check out what you'd found," Thuk told them. "The same thing we reported to her when we called an hour ago. The problem is the armed forces have taken over the university's find," Alicia explained to Thuk. "Miss Hui Van says she spoke with several contacts she had in the government. They warned her that Vietnamese intelligence might intervene for the sake of national security. Looks like they did," Thuk explained to them. "What's next on our investigation?" Monique asked. "The 2 names that company man gave us, the paintings and their connection to the first painting at the university. Between these 2 things, we may be able to discern the fate of the daughter of the girl from Ms. Hui Van's story," Alicia suggested. "Monique and I are going to scour the site at the bridge from my vision earlier," Halen advised the delegation. "How? We don't have 2 vehicles," Linda asked. "They're quick runners," Bryce assured Linda. "That, and we're going to find our way to the main road and flag a taxi." Halen stretched the truth.
"Stay in touch," Alicia reminded Halen. "Bye, Thuk," Monique flirted as Thuk blushed once again. The delegation loaded into the van and began their trip back to the Oriental Jade Hotel. Meanwhile, Halen and Monique walked until they were out of sight from everyone and everything before they discarded their regular clothing to reveal their costumes beneath. "I was getting a bit stuffy," Monique stated as she discarded the last of her daytime outfit. "Feels good to just be us. At least traveling won't be a problem here on in," Halen said as her wings sprung from her back and she leapt into the air as the butterfly dragon. "Wait up, boss!" Monique leapt into the air to become the Eclipse, the bridge of now and then. The night sky kept their secret as they flew the length of the great river, their forms barely visible to the naked eye against the backdrop of the star-filled void. Hanoi was a luminous city, even at night, like a textured canvas painted with colors of glowing light, broken only by various bodies of water and the daily schedule of its local businesses. From a height of approximately 2,000 meters, Halen spotted the bridge. She immediately recognized it by its width and the style of barrier dividing the 3 oncoming lanes from their counterparts in the opposite direction. "Found it," Halen said, loud enough to signal Monique. Helen's wings tightened up and she spun into a high-speed dive, heading directly for the point at which Disguise 3 had jumped over the rails into the river 150 feet below. Monique instantaneously changed direction, speeding down towards the same point. Helen's wings spread to slow her before her landing, then folding up and disappearing into her back. "I take it this is the spot?" Monique asked after her landing. "Looks like it." Helen's senses suddenly activated and she examined the scene, seeing the bridge simultaneously in this time and the same bridge of 45 years earlier on the day of her vision. They impacted here. The motorized rickshaw spun 6 full times before colliding with the rail. Disguise 3 was pinned to the windscreen as it spun and thrown from the rickshaw on impact with the rail. "How could he have lived?" Monique asked. "He's had a lot of training. He doesn't look it, but he's very skilled in many ways and a fast thinker on his feet," Helen told her.
"But he wasn't on his feet," Monique quipped. "I guess that explains the crash," Helen came back. "He picked himself up, nearly pinned by the rickshaw, and threw his hands up as the armed men approached him, guns drawn," Helen explained. She backed up, as if following someone else's moves. He disarmed one of the assailants, taking his gun from him, and then using him as a human shield, managed to back himself to the railing, where he leapt out over the river 150 feet below. During his attempt to escape, he was shot once, certainly, possibly twice, Helen noted as she recalled her vision. "If he lived, he would have swam ashore and ran for cover," Monique suggested. "Exactly. We should be checking the closest shore to where he impacted," Helen agreed, jumping over the railing herself. She quickly fell the distance before her wings shot out from her back and slowed her descent enough for her to hover. "That means he would have impacted here," Helen pointed to an imaginary spot on the water. "I've got it." Monique instantaneously dove over the railing, and before Helen could even say a word, she was beneath the water of the river in light form. Her body naturally illuminated her surroundings while not requiring breath the same way that other human beings did. She flew instantly to the bottom of the river and searched carefully until she came across what appeared to be a rusted remnant of a handgun. She grasped at it, allowing her hand to materialize enough to hold it, and then she instantaneously flew out of the water onto the shore where Helen was already examining the ground. "Look what I found!" Monique handed it to Helen. "Way to go! That must be the gun he dropped during his fall. This confirms it then," Helen said, examining what was left of the scrap. As she examined it, she suddenly disappeared from the world and was once again floating in the air over a daylight scene in the same place only 45 years earlier. In the river, she saw a man falling. He impacted the river with a loud thwop. A moment later, his head popped above the ripples and waves, and he struggled to make his way to shore. Up on the bridge, the man he'd taken hostage had composed and rearmed himself. He holstered his new weapon, grabbing one of the SMGs from a nearby soldier. "I'm commandeering your weapon." He checked the chamber of the firearm, readying it in case he'd need it. "We don't have authorization from headquarters," another man in a military uniform scolded him. "He is a vital danger to our security and must be dealt with." The man ran to the end of the bridge and climbed down onto the dirt and stone hill leading to the shores beneath it. "Don't anyone follow me," he ordered. The man then made his way along the shore until he found Disguise 3, out of breath and coughing on the shore of the great river. "You always were despicable," the man with the gun spat at Disguise 3. "I believed in something you'll never know or understand," Disguise 3 defied the man. "Your desires are turning your back on our country and our tradition. You would allow the West to dictate our future?" The man with the gun shook his head in disgust. "I'm not going to change my desires or wishes of my country or my people for you. And I'm not going to betray those in our country who feel the same." Disguise 3 leaned up slightly to speak, and then began coughing as the pain of his wound rippled through him. "Then this is truly the end." The man with the gun leveled his pistol at Disguise 3's head. "I guess it is for me, but you'll be left with the hell of your choices." "Well, what are you waiting for?" Disguise 3 spoke boldly, looking death straight in the eye. The man with the gun paused for a moment.
As Halen focused on his face, she could see the immense stress he was under. Without another moment's passing, he pulled the trigger, and Halen was suddenly thrust back up onto the bridge where the soldiers waiting for the man with the gun. She immediately heard another shot, followed by a last, and then silence. She watched as he climbed over the railing near the end of the bridge and rejoined the military unit. "The deed is done?" asked the military man who'd confronted him earlier. "As it ever will be. He will no longer be a risk to this country." The man walked over to the armored car and got in the passenger seat and picked up the handset of the two-way radio. "This is E51-1. Tainted messenger is eliminated," he spoke coldly into the headset, after which he hung it up. Then he leaned forward and fell asleep on the dash of the armored car. Halen suddenly returned from her vision, a tear welling up in her eye. "Halen? Boss, are you all right? What is it?" Monique grabbed onto Halen, shaking her. "It didn't exactly end the way I'd hoped for, Disguise 3, Halen told Monique. "He's?" Monique stepped back. "Yes, he is." Halen began to weep. "That's it then, right?" Monique asked, her own eyes welling up with tears. "Now there's only one trail, and that's the trail of the paintings. That's all we have left to find that girl," Halen said as she got to her feet.